In the readings that are set for this period of the church's year, what we are doing is watching how the early Christian church spreads out from Jerusalem and into what was called the Gentile world, into the ancient world. It couldn't have been a better time for this to happen. After all, the Jewish nation had been taken over by all sorts of enemies over a period of time, and they'd been spread out all through the ancient world, the diaspora. And at the time of this event of Jesus, they were under the control of the Roman Empire. And as we all know, the Roman Empire was really efficient, not only in terms of its military, but in terms of its administration and its politics and everything else. There it was, a golden opportunity for this message of Jesus Christ to spread out into the whole world. Now, unfortunately, as always happens, it isn't that simple. In Jerusalem, where the main authority of the church was, they looked at the things that were happening away from Jerusalem and in this Gentile world, and it worried them. It worried them because the Jewish communities in these different places all around the ancient world had made friends with the people with whom they were residing. And they were good friendships. And they were willing to be flexible in the way that they expected new converts from the Gentile world to behave. Oh, but boy, did that worry Jerusalem. They understood all of the traditions and the practices that belonged to strict Judaism. And they began to say, hang on a minute, if you are going to have a convert who is from a Gentile, he is going to have to obey these strict rules. Rules like circumcision. Do you know that put off some people? I can't think why. And the rules about what people were allowed to eat, which we've just had in our reading from the Acts of the Apostles. And you know, so what do you do about that? And they had to wrestle with that in Jerusalem. And gradually they had to understand that this degree of flexibility that allowed this new faith in God, this new understanding of God, to flourish and to grow everywhere. I rather think that it's been like that pretty much through all the ages. I'm absolutely certain that they didn't just have this dilemma at the beginning in Jerusalem, but by the time they get to the end of the first century, oh, I bet you it was there. By the time we get into the 10th century, there are new issues to contend with. By the time we get to the 20th century, there are new issues to contend with. We're only just in the beginning of the 21st century, but they're still there. The poor Roman Catholic Church was wrestling with this when Pope Francis died, and you had all the different groups of people saying, with a new Pope, we need to be a guy like this, or a guy like that, or a guy like that. And it happens in our own churches as well, doesn't it? I mean, the things that can cause people to get really hot under the collar. For example, I have lived through a period of time, because when I was first ordained, it was the Book of Common Prayer. And then we get Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, the ASB, Common Worship. Oh boy, every time the Church of England changes the prayer book, and it's not just the prayer book. It can happen with a hymn book. Or introducing guitars in the service. Oh, you've all been there. You all know that, don't you? I mean, here we are in a beautifully refurbished church. But I do hear that when the message was that they were going to take the pews away, there was a bit of hot under the collar. It's been like that all the way through time, hasn't it? That this sense of, how should we do it, as being something that we have to wrestle with. Now, I find it the most enormous privilege of my priestly life to be a PTO priest. It allows me to go around all these wonderful Sussex churches, and there are some absolutely gorgeous Sussex churches. And that would be fun enough. But actually, inside these lovely churches, there are lovely people. Even in Holy Trinity, there are lovely people. And these lovely people, I mean, you get the impression, if you sort of take the media, the newspapers, there's half a dozen old women. No, they're not. There are 50, 100, more than that, in these lovely churches. And it's not just that they're all getting together and being loving and kind to each other. It reaches out from there into the whole of their community. It really does change communities. Just because they're there, just because they are so fired up with the love of God that they can't keep it to themselves. They have to take it out. They have to express it in their communities. And it's absolutely amazing and an enormous privilege. There are dozens, hundreds, thousands of people whose lives are made really different by the people who come from buildings like this and take it into the homes in the parish. I know people who are too frail to come to church. The people from church go and look after them. I know people who are suffering from dementia but don't have to go into care. They can stay at home because there are lovely people who come from church and look after them. Or when they can't get to church, there are people who go and pick them up in the car and take them to church. All sorts of wonderful things going on purely and simply because Jesus brought this love into our knowledge, into our hearts, into our understanding. And it's so powerful that it makes a real difference to the world. Most church schools are oversubscribed. It doesn't mean that the mummies and daddies that have their children going to the church schools, you're going to see in church every week. In fact, you might not see them in church at all. They might come for a baptism or somebody's wedding or something like that, but you might not see them at all. But they want their children to grow up in this environment where their children actually experience the quality of the love that belongs to the faith that we all share. And it makes such a difference. In one of the schools that I looked after in one of my parishes, we had a little autistic boy. He was severely autistic. He had savant qualities. I mean, he could, for example, he could sit down and play the organ, although nobody had ever taught him to play the organ. He could watch the credits going up at the end of a film without apparently looking at the screen and tell you every single word that was on it. But in every other way, he couldn't communicate in normal ways. But in that school, it made no difference. Right from the beginning, right from the infant class, the children surrounded this individual and made him part of their class family. And it worked all the way through the school. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Because that's the nature of the love of God that we experience and we have the privilege of being able to share. Like the church in the first century, the church today has expanded out into the world in a quite different way, even than a few years ago. I'm thinking particularly at the moment of social media. When we had the lockdown, all of us, I think, probably found ourselves actually having to learn new skills. And from the point of view of the church, we had to learn new skills because we had to do our services online. What I found totally amazing was who tuned in. YouTube actually tells you where they all came from. I had followers from all over the world. I feel very sorry for them. But it was wonderful. This is like the new diaspora. This is like the new opportunity that we all have. I'm not sure exactly how we're supposed to use it, but I am sure we're supposed to pray about it. I am sure that we are supposed to be waiting for God to press the right buttons so that we say, oh, I've got it. This is what you want me to do. Meantime, we just pray and wait. And God will use us to spread his love in the world of today. So may we please, just for a moment, offer our prayer for this world of today and our responsibility in it. Gracious and loving God, you have called us to be the light of the world and to be witnesses to your boundless love. As the early church was led by your Spirit to cross boundaries and to embrace all people, so lead us today. Give us wisdom to understand the needs of our time, courage to speak truth with grace, and compassion to act with mercy. Help us to love as Christ loved, without limits. Show us how to be your hands, how to be your feet in a hurting world, and guide our church to carry your message where it's needed most. Amen.